37 and still be a force as a fighter.
Look! His hands are down. His hands are down.
Carlos Monzon had a cold heart and a hot temper. Born dirt poor in a tiny town in Argentina, Carlos had little in the way of opportunity. He quit school in the 3rd grade, shined shoes to feed himself, soon desperate as he was dangerous, more volatile than a Molotov. He felt little compunction about hurting people. Those who crossed him came to regret it.
Was disciplined in his own way inside the ring. He was not reckless, he was relentless.
Those who loved him did too. The things that made him a monster in his personal life made for an assassin in the ring. Monzon makes his debut in 1963, but he turns up on film for the first time in a title shot, taking on the Italian superstar Nino Benvenuti. It only seemed right with an Italian champion that the road to the middleweight title would go through Rome. Between the shoulder bumps and hitting on the brake, the endless, countless rabbit punches, the ref was more lenient than the Tower of Pisa. Carlos did his damage working his way into and out of the clinch. For a man with such long arms, he had an uncanny ability to create just enough space to generate snap in close. Nino fought his heart out for the fans, but Carlos Monzon never had one in the first place. And so he took it. The final shot left the old Caesar bowing to the new one in front of an Italian crowd who were not entertained. Nino regrouped, and the next year got a rematch to win his former title back. Carlos simply outmuscled him.
Arthur McCanny came over here thinking he told that the figures are not too distinguishable upon the American set.
But the thing that truly made Monzon one of the meanest middleweights ever was precision. He had the timing and accuracy of a sniper leading his target. Nino lined up a shot. Carlos saw it coming. A third round was shaping up just like the second. When one of Nino's true friends threw in a towel that saved him a beating. Nino hung up the gloves for good.
This fight has been stopped.
The victories saw Carlos return to Argentina as a hero. The country had been plagued by social and political instability. Bread and games was the closest thing they had to a sense of normalcy. The regime made a hero of Carlos, used his fights as distraction from the hard realities of dictatorship. They also ordered his fights be shown live and free on Argentine TV, which hadn't quite caught up to color yet. He'd soon be joined by Emil Griffith, who flew to Carlos's backyard to remove the former from description as former champion.
Can't do it so far.
Back in black and white, Carlos taught his countrymen how to ruthlessly exploit a reach advantage. It starts with the double jab.
Held each other out. There's two of a scheduled 15. That missed that left.
When Griffith starts to move his head or throw a counter, Carlos would drop a right to the body.
At Luna Park in Buenos Aires.
Emil charges, and Carlos glides out of range using his shoulders and distance for defense.
Used his shoulders and his head in the clinch in Monzon. He's been at it a long, long time.
Firing back short and accurate, allowing Emil to walk right into them.
Idol, who yesterday was greeted.
And it wouldn't be a Monzon fight without a thumb in the eye along the way.
Monzon hasn't been able to follow up so far here in round 8. Take that right landed. Griffith continued on. Left uppercut didn't come anywhere near it. Now Monzon, it's possible that Monzon is the more. And there are 25 seconds to go. Now Monzon.
It took 14 long rounds for the South American psychopath to finally fold the former champ. Within months, he's back in the ring like it never happened. Carlos returned to Europe again. He takes on Jean-Claude Boutier and once again shows the skills of a stalker. Steady as a metronome, Monzon threw his jab, cold and calculating, looking for weakness and waiting on his moment.
Very small. I paced it off. It's only 16 feet.
Until round 6, when he finally finds it.
That was a good punch. Monzon's right to the side of Boutier. And another right. Monzon.
Carlos shifts from stalker to psycho killer.
There's another right by Monzon. That's right.
It was a round he was lucky to survive.
There, he went down on that left. With the left leaving himself open to his right. There's Boutier.
But it was all downhill from there.
There's Boutier pursuing Monzon. To the French people. He became the middleweight champion.
It got dirty in the 10th.
Monzon is having trouble hitting Boutier cleanly. Boutier did get in a left. Pebble Beach, California, 3rd round, U.S. Open. Monzon trying to work on the belt. 10 seconds left. He was hunched over and fell forward, but not really hurt. There's the right that sent him back. He learned to eat American-style breakfast. Bacon and eggs. Gave up the cafe and croissants. That is
Boutier had enough and couldn't come out for the 13th.
Now we're in the 13th round, and the fight has been stopped.
By 1973, his dictatorial reign as middleweight champion had outlasted the president who first congratulated him. He was a national hero with access to the elite of Argentine society. Carlos is showing up in the newspapers with models and actresses. Any woman in a relationship with Carlos starts wearing sunglasses whenever they were in public to cover the bruises. Those brave enough to ask about it were attacked too. Violence was the answer to every problem for Carlos Monzon. Until tired of the abuse and affairs, his wife grabbed a .22 revolver and put 2 bullets in him. It took 7 hours of surgery, and one of the bullets he carried forever. Carlos would absolutely not learn a lesson from this. By the mid-70s, he'd also run out of worthy middleweights. But a genuine great would take the big step up in weight to take on Carlos for the long-held title. Jose Napoles, a welterweight sensation.
A reconnaissance opening round. This fellow Monzon has been unbeaten in his last 75 fights.
He was a technical genius. So smooth, they called him butter. Nicknamed Mantequilla in his native tongue.
They crowded them in here in a setting that's never been seen before. And he tried that one for size, Monzon, that long right hand, a lazy-looking punch. Has looked very good in the latter part of the fights that I've seen him in there. I like the way Napoles has moved back in, trying to...
If you ever need to know why boxing has weight classes or consider reach and advantage, this fight is a perfect example.
Teeing Napoles up for a punch. I said Monzon was a slow starter, and I was right.
Carlos was cutting through Mantequilla like a hot knife.
He's hardly missing with a punch. And Napoles will still be a force as a fighter. Look at the attack. Oh, he really...
He's backing off now, which is a bad thing for Napoles.
He's only got 10 seconds to last this round.
If you want an example of when to end a fight, Angelo Dundee provides a perfect one. A decade earlier, he pushed a blinded Muhammad Ali out of his corner against Sonny Liston because he knew Ali could win. Against Carlos Monzon, Dundee pulled the plug early because he knew Napoles could not.
No, he would not come out.
Carlos kept winning.
The right hand grazed off the top of the head of him. Now there's another right hand. Left hand. As if it's cut. It doesn't. There's the right hand. Now it's down.
At home and abroad, by 1977, Carlos put together the longest reign in middleweight history. But the tide of time can't be turned back. It was a vicious rematch with Rodrigo Valdez that would convince Carlos the time had come.
He doesn't do much flashy moving. He does it left in round 2, and the champion is cut to round 3. Used by Valdez. You're getting to see it. Go away. That punch went off far distance. That's a surprise.
For the first time in forever, Carlos had to get off the floor to win a fight.
A Monzon career, perhaps. Cheering going on. Stick that right hand. First time Monzon went on the road from Argentina. Right now, got to stay away though until he can get some repair work, doesn't he, Jerry? I don't know if it'll be enough. Look at the courage of Valdez. Taking shot after shot at I again. He was just pumping. It was dripping a little bit, but it was pumping last time. Get another good shot right on it. This championship fight. The last 2 minutes of Monzon's career, perhaps.
It took all night to close the Colombian's eyes. By the time the decision is read, Carlos edges it.
Champion is still the champion.
Carlos decided he's pushed his luck far enough. Retires for good after his 100th fight. With a record of 87, 3-9, 14 defenses of his middleweight title, and a ridiculous 80-fight unbeaten streak, there could be no questioning his greatness between the ropes. But he was a monster in private. Monzon would eventually remarry a victim by the name of Alicia Muniz. In 1988, after a night of drinking, yet another shouting match broke out in the Monzon home. It was on a second-floor balcony where a drunk Carlos Monzon squeezed both his battered hands tight around Alicia's throat until she goes limp. Argentina's champion throws her over the railing. In an effort to make it look like an accident, Carlos then took the plunge himself. But the jury couldn't ignore the injuries to Alicia's throat and reluctantly convicted Carlos of her murder. He was sentenced to 11 years. In 1995, while on a weekend furlough to visit family, Carlos was killed in a car accident. He didn't have pallbearers. The entire country of Argentina crowd served his casket to the wake. Thus ends the violent life of the meanest champion in middleweight history.